This movie opens with a girl named Noelle making art amidst other painters in a studio. In an exhibition of one of her paintings, other painters do not speak too well of it, saying it does not have any emotions, which makes her really sad. The tutor, after asking her what she's going to do for her thesis exhibition, advises her to make things messy and not just be plain about her painting, saying that will give more life to her painting. Later on, while she is sketching a drawing outdoors, Luke, one of her colleagues and her crush, comes up to meet her and he compliments her drawing. After speaking with her for a while, he invites her to a party he will be having with his friends later that night. A tea night. While she dresses up, her roommate Sky comes in and teases her about where she's going, so Noelle tells her about Luke and the invite. Sky then tells Noelle to invite him for a midnight swim, saying it works like a charm, but Noelle is not experienced in doing this, so Sky suggests to her to make sure she dances with him and to say the phrase peas and carrots to him. Arriving at the party, Noelle starts to talk to Luke about painting. He lures her into his room and starts to seduce her by kissing her intimately, after which he tries to sleep with her. She is reluctant to, but he forcefully takes advantage of her instead. Afterwards, she leaves the room and goes to wash herself in the pool outside as she sobs uncontrollably. Later the next day, Sky notices her pale mood and asks her if she is okay. Noelle then tells her what happened and says she wants to report him to the school, but Sky tells her that is a wrong move and she should not say anything about it so that they won't view her as a used-up woman like it happened to one of her friends who had a similar experience. Afterwards, Sky consoles her. Later at school, while they receive a painting lecture, Noelle sees Luke talking with another student and immediately, she gets livid. She then leaves and reports the case to the school's principal, Melinda Sanders. Melinda then starts to ask her questions and asks if she particularly used the no word to Luke to make him stop. This makes her start to fidget as she realizes what is coming. As she steps out, she receives a message from Luke asking her if she wants to come over. In the heat of her anger, she goes to his place. Luke welcomes her in and offers her a drink, but she declines. He notices her pale mood and asks her what is wrong, so she tells him that she wants him to apologize to her, but he declines and says that is not going to happen. He walks up the stairs and tells her to let herself out of the door, but she follows him in rage. They have an altercation and she mistakenly pushes him off the stairs and he falls lifeless to the ground floor as he gets soaked in his pool of blood. Noelle gets scared and hurriedly leaves his house. The detectives arrive at his house to investigate what had happened earlier, and one of them, Detective Kennedy, sees the message he sent to Noelle. Later at class, the tutor cancels class due to Luke's incident and tells them to see the counselor if they need to. As Noelle is about to leave, Detective Kennedy calls out to her and asks her questions about her visit to Luke's house. He then gives her his card to reach out to him in case she has any other information to let out. Later at her house, she starts to search out a case of sexual assault on the internet. She comes across a video of a lady who was taken advantage of by a group, and this gets her curious. Later on, she meets a lady named Lindsay and introduces herself, telling her that her story has inspired her. Lindsay, upon hearing this, moves away and tells Noelle to leave her alone. Noelle insists and tells her that she had a similar experience and she is writing a thesis on it. Lindsay gets interested in it and she talks about her rape post-experience with Noelle over a cup of coffee. The next day, Noelle attends a therapy meeting with other ladies where they talk about stories of sexual assaults experienced by other ladies. They then start to talk about a nail polish that could detect if a drink is drugged, but Noelle asks that they deal with the main issue and look for ways that boys will stop the sexual assaults, and they insist that it's better they create awareness about it and protect themselves. Noelle later attends a party and seduces a guy there who is one of the guys from the assault video she watched, and takes him into the room. She drugs his drink and forcefully sleeps with him while he is in pain, just as she has seen them do to the girl in the video she watched online. He passes out and she leaves the party quietly. Moments later, the forensics are in his room investigating his case as they realize that he passed away due to asphyxiation from his own vomit. Due to inspirations from recent experiences, Noelle's paintings got better and she received compliments from her colleagues and her tutor. Noelle, in a thirst for revenge, visits one of the other guys' houses, and as she lures him into sleeping with her, she strangles him till he is lifeless. At another time, she hits another as he takes his bath in a public bathroom. After much struggle from him, she takes him down with her hammer. Investigations go on, and the detectives visit Lindsay to ask some questions since the boys are all connected to her, being those that had taken advantage of her in the video. She refuses to be questioned because no one gave her a voice when she was making her complaints and slams her door at him. Because of the recent murder incidents, a curfew was set for the protection of the students in the school. Later on, Shane, one of Noelle's mates, sits with her to eat pizza together. After a while, they get emotionally entangled and they start to caress each other. Abruptly, Noelle stops and asks him to get out, which he does. Later that night, Noelle finds Sky in a sorry state, injured, and she tries to console her. Sky then tells her her story and how her real name is Aston Daisy, but she changed it after the incident. The next day, Noelle goes to the person in charge of records in the school to ask for detailed reports on on-campus crimes. She asks him for permission to look through the files and she sees one with the name Aston Daisy. She then devises a plan to intentionally drop another box, and while the attendant tries to gather its contents together, She takes out Sky's files which she had earlier noticed and puts it in her bag. Noelle then gets home to go through it and sees that Sky has been sexually assaulted. Just then, Sky brings in a mail for her, and before she leaves again, Noelle reassures Sky that she is here for her. Noelle continues to check the files and realizes that Melinda Sanders was the one in charge of the case. Noelle then goes to visit her and tells her to do better at her job. Noelle finds out the name of Sky's assault is Calvin Reeves and starts to find out details about him. She goes over to his house and lures him out to her car, lying that she has a flat tire and that she needs his help. When he opens the trunk, she uses a taser on him and he falls into the trunk. Noelle then closes it and drives off. She takes him to a dark gymnasium where she ties him up. Outside is a patrol guard with his girl. While they smooch, the girl notices a trail of blood and alerts the guard, who also alerts his partner over his radio comms. Calvin then starts to beg Noelle not to harm him. Suddenly, they hear a sound and Calvin begins to shout at the top of his voice for help, making Noelle stab him, and this leaves some blood stains on her. Just then, the police come in and Noelle runs off. As she arrives home, she meets Sky at the door of their house. Meanwhile, Sky notices the stains on her, but Noelle tells her that it is paint and she goes in and internally screams with regret. The next day, Detective Kavanaugh goes to meet Sky to question her concerning Calvin, who is now in the ICU, but she refuses to entertain any questions from him and moves away from him. In class, Noelle's tutor tells Noelle that the department would like Noelle to speak at the graduation. When Sky gets back home, she ransacks Noelle's clothes and finds blood stains on her cloth and her picture also, which makes her pretty scared. Noelle comes in and Sky confronts Noelle, asking her why she would do something like that. Noelle tries to defend her actions since she was acting in revenge for Sky, but Sky doesn't like it at all. Sky tells Noelle that the cops are after her and that Calvin will tell them about it since Noelle showed him Sky's picture, which they can use to trace it to her. Noelle then apologizes and tells her that first thing the next morning, she will go to the station and turn herself in. The next day, Noelle walks into the room and sees a letter from Sky to her parents saying she is the campus killer. This makes Noelle bolt out of the room disguised and sees her lying injured and dead, which causes her to cry uncontrollably. Afterwards, Noelle is also interrogated by a detective and he asks her why Sky would want to take her life, but instead of answering, tears well up in her eyes. Noelle later comes across Sean to apologize for the other day and also for not texting him back, and he says it is fine. He then extends his apologies for Sky's passing away and leaves. Noelle later starts to compile her graduation speech. At the arts thesis exhibition, Noelle's work is appreciated by other guests, which makes her really glad about herself. Later, at the graduation, Noelle is called upon to stage to deliver her speech, and she begins her speech by asking why art. She then takes them through her childhood days and how she started painting by trying to immortalize the beautiful sunflower that she sees around her since it was going to die one day anyways, but the painting will not. She talks about nature and that what nature needs is life after the darkness that it starts with. She then proceeds to encourage the M.F.A. class of 2016 to aim not to preserve the beauty, but to expose the truth and to dare to make the world uncomfortable with their honesty no matter what the consequences, because the world will be better for it. Everyone applauds her and they all get to throw their caps up. Just right after, as she moves out, the cops arrest her and she gives a wry smile through the car window. Well, what a crazy movie. It reminds me of this other movie called Promising Young Woman, but this one was a full-on revenge killer. What did you guys think of this movie? Certainly some of the men deserved their fate, or do you think they didn't? Let me know.